Welcome, Wargamers! Perhaps like me, you spent a long time mulling over your project, refining your ideas and concepts. Maybe you've started putting them down on paper. But where should you begin? Of course, first and foremost, you need to understand how relevant your specific idea is, how interesting it will be to players, how many competitors you have in your niche, and whether you want to make money or simply provide players with a certain experience. Well, in this video in Russian, the author does an excellent job of breaking down how to approach this analysis, where also this video in English will contain slightly less information, but it's still sufficient. What was my starting point? I've actually been a fan of Warhammer tabletop games for over 10 years, and so, like many other enthusiasts, I long had the idea of creating some kind of tabletop game, having a wargame, but usually never went beyond a few thoughts and ideas. But why did I take it further this time? I figured I had enough experience playing Warhammer, other tabletop games and wargames. I analyzed the market to see if what I wanted to create already existed, and realized it was untapped niche. The fact that the niche is untapped doesn't mean anyone needs it, but at the time I thought it was a good idea. Market analysis comes either before or after the initial idea. In my case, it came after. You need to figure out who your competitors are, how you stand out, and so on. So, what was my idea for a regular game? Let's start by looking at the competition. Most often, there are about 5 or 6 games where you take medieval figures and play with them. There are a couple of options with fully customizable models and units. But I come from Warhammer. What does that mean for me? It means I know I can go buy a box, assemble it, optionally print it and go play. And LEGO has 3 same steps, meaning you can also go buy a box and play. If you are a kid, of course. At least that's what society tells us. But if all of this becomes a tabletop game, your wife complains about your pew pew, you drop it dramatically, right? Well, at least that was my line of thinking. Yes, in the end, I want to create a game based on LEGO sets. That is the main concept, was to write the rules for specific LEGO sets on our existing LEGO boxes and say, here you go, now you can take your LEGO collection off the shelf and go play. And it sounds pretty cool overall, but I didn't realize that was only for me. So why shouldn't you make a game like that? First of all, I didn't stop to consider whether anyone actually wanted to play with the Legos, not just messing around, but following specific rules, read them, understand them, and actually set up a table for play. I was judging by my own standards, which isn't the right approach. The second point was that I'd write the rules now and then somehow find people who'd be willing to support me, test them and so on. I'm not a marketer, and the project wasn't originally planned as a product. That is, I hope to write the rules and then preach the word a bit through word of mouth. In the end, at its peak, the Telegram channel already decided to post all the rules, gathered as many people as there are now on this YouTube channel. 31 people. Thank you to everyone who decided to subscribe. Yes, sorry, my content is still totally random. Wargames are actually a big and complex ecosystem, and I knew that, but I decided to go at it alone, which was fundamentally wrong. For a project like this, you need testers, marketers and so on. No matter what. Don't assume that any of your friends will be willing to play hundreds of rounds with you just to support your idea. But how do you create a good wargame? Not a successful one, no, but a good one. First, you need to thoroughly analyze your idea from as many angles as possible. Second, find people who are willing to write the rules and test them. It's important to understand that these should be different people, because that will immediately help you grasp the third point. The rules must be written and simply and clearly in the earlier iterations of your wargame, unless, of course, you're immediately targeting a very niche audience of hardcore fans of the most obscure rules. Avoid any complex or multi-layered rules. You need to test how the core of your game works, look at your competitors' ideas, and see how they resolve certain problems, if you will already identified them in your own game. In short, try not to reinvent the wheel as much as possible. Yes, you still need to stand out, but how? That's your problem. And 4. Make sure your target audience finds out about your game. Simple, isn't it? Well, I suppose now I'll talk about some of my own stage aside from choosing an idea. First, of course, was creating the game's core, the core rules. I based the rules on Warhammer 40,000, but in some places made them more complex and in others I simplified them. Basically, I followed the usual path. For the game I choose the inch-based system, which came over from Warhammer and is also used in LEGO itself, meaning it can be used as a ruler. Basic-sided die was also chosen because if you're thinking of playing a wargame, you must likely find one in a board game box somewhere in your room. This is the simplest and most convenient option for players, since it means we won't have to figure out where to get your custom dice, print custom cards, and so on. A basic Lego minifigures doesn't just sit on the table, for no reason, especially with gear in its hands. But if you use this round plate as a base, it works perfectly. Ideally, it would be great to have a 3 round plate, but unfortunately Lego doesn't make one. Actually, while I was making the game, I didn't understand why Lego itself doesn't facilitate the creation of something like this, since people have accumulated a huge mountain of their sets over the years, and essentially only children can play with them, and last, adults are only encouraged to collect them. But I can't just chalk that up to my fundamental mistake. After all, creating and maintaining a game is very expensive and labor intensive. Most likely your favorite box of overpriced plastic would become even more expensive, because in addition to the Lego sets inside, you'd have to include the rules for that specific model right in the box. And then there are the rules, which I will briefly summarize in this video. You take your favorite toy off shelf, you force your loved ones, your dear friends, whom you won't have left afterward, to do the same. Set up a table that's roughly the size specified in the rules, which you will, of course, read before the game. Then set up your minifigures. During the command phase, hand out any rules you have, move your minifigures during the movement phase. During the shooting phase, fire at your opponent's units. Then, during the close combat phase, attack and force your Lego figures into close combat. Finally, see who won, and then write a review on whether the purchase was worth it. I'd be extremely grateful for your feedback on the rules and their balance if you decide to take this heroic step. Actually, the whole game, yes, of course. I tried to justify some of the rules logically, rationally, and so on. And yes, the very idea of writing rules for every Lego set I realized sounds too ambitious at first, but I managed to do it for most of Star Wars and Ninjago, at least before I abandoned the project. However, why wouldn't Lego do this? And there are plenty of reasons. After all, Lego has never wanted to be associated with conflict and weapons, and the word wargame itself is essentially a taboo term. Next, you need to convince at least part of your audience that they can now buy these sets not just to display it on a shelf, but also to actually get together and play. Of course, I really want to leave as much freedom as possible for the system, so the transport mechanics are just that, transport. And in the future, we can easily attach a very flexible character generator to this system, based on a large set of rules, and so on. But why didn't I do that right away? Because, in my opinion, it's easier to test and balance the system using specific units. And yes, the unit info sheets are nothing special, but they serve their basic function. Of course, I could add icons from Lego games, more stylization, and so on, but when I was working on this, my priority was to refine the core gameplay, not the visual aesthetics. This is still just a tier demo. And yeah, now you can check all the links in the description to read the rules, grab your sets off the shelf and try it out for yourselves. If you're interested, of course, I'd appreciate any feedback, let me know how readable it is, how playable it is, and so on. If I see any positive reaction or support from you, I'll definitely try to keep this project going. Anyway, good luck to everyone and see you later!